spirit of reconciliation, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island peoples today. Welcome to Totally Lit, the podcast celebrating reading, writing and creating literature. I'm your host, Ky Garvey. Thank you for listening. This episode, I have another guest and panellist from the Australian Short Story Festival. I'm very pleased to chat with Catherine McNamara. Catherine is the author of 4 award-winning short story collections, The Cartography of Others, Love Stories for Hectic People, Pelt, and The Carnal Fugues, shortlisted for the 2024 Prime Minister's Literary Awards. Having travelled the world as, among other things, a bar owner, an embassy secretary, a graphic designer, translator and shoe model, Catherine now lives between Venice and the Veneto countryside, where she runs writing retreats. You can catch Catherine at 2 different panels over the weekend. On Saturday, 11:50, the panel Violent Delights. What keeps attracting short story writers to tough or frightening ideas? Join Eugene Bacon, Jane Corns and Catherine McNamara as they explore their fascination with the confronting, chilling and even brutal aspects of mind, body and heart, moderated by Emily Paul. And on Sunday at 10:30, The Pleasure Plunge. It's not easy to write about sex without being unintentionally funny or creepy. Holden Shepherd and Catherine McNamara consider how to avoid being published in The Guardian newspaper's annual Bad Sex Writing Award and what makes for the satisfyingly erotic in writing, moderated by Deborah Pike. I hope you enjoy our chat. Catherine McNamara, welcome to Totally Lit. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Very excited to interview you and chat about the Australian Short Story Festival. This year it's being held in Perth, but this is not your first time being part of the festival. Would you like to share with me what it was like for you last time?
I went to the festival in Adelaide last year, in November last year. It was the first time for me. I'd heard about the festival. I heard quite a lot about the festival, so I was really happy to be invited. Also, last year I had a collection of short stories come out called The Carnal Fugues. So it was a great opportunity actually to read a bit of work from the collection and talk about it, and we'll meet with other short story writers because I think we're a special kind and it's lovely to be together. And I think everybody feels the same way.
Fantastic. And this year you're on a few panels in Perth. Would you like to share a bit about what you'll be chatting about?
Yes. The panels are always exciting because the energy happens on the stage as well as the tiny bit of preparation that perhaps you've done or the work that you've read and from the other writers. And so, I don't know, there's sort of a strange alchemy, a strange mix when you're out there, when you're there talking about work. And the first panel that I'm on tomorrow is called Violent Delights. And I'm with 2 other writers, Jane Corns and Eugene Bacon. And I've been reading their work over the past week, and lots of, discomfort and sensuality and intimacy, I think, sort of intellectual intimacy, very atmospheric writing. So I think we'll be talking about what it actually means, violence within passion, discomfort within delight. So I think that discussion will take off. I'm looking forward to that. And on Sunday, I'm on a panel called The Plunge with Holden Shepherd, whose work I've been reading as well. Lovely, intimate, atmospheric, and very sensual work. So, but on that panel, I know we'll be talking about how to craft perhaps a sex scene, or not specifically sex, I mean intimacy or passion. Mm. I think we'll be talking about how to avoid clumsiness, vulgarity. I mean, how to write these types of scenes sort of in the most realistic and the most convincing way. I think that's what we'll be there for.
Because those scenes can be very intimate, and sometimes when people try to write them, it can seem very wooden or mechanic or very messy as well. So writing them in a way that seems real to the reader can be a real challenge. So that would be a great panel to attend. I am a long way away in Brisbane, though, unfortunately.
Oh,
But
that's
I
a
would love
shame.
to be there. And is there anything particularly that you've got your eye on to sit on any of the panels and observe? Has there been anything that's caught your attention?
Well, I know there's one with Kate Kennedy and John Kinsella, and they'll be talking about returning to the short story form. And that's something that really interests me and I think interests everybody because as a short story writer, you're often pushed into writing a novel because novels are more commercial and easier to sell, easier for agents to sell to publishers. So those of us who really love short stories, I think that's a question that many of us ask ourselves. Definitely that one. There was one with Adam Thompson and Laura about families. I think families in writing, I'm very interested in domesticity and dynamic within families. Gosh, I read the program, but now nothing's coming to me. I think it's hard because there's two sort of parallel sets of talks and you can't go to
Yeah.
everything. That
And
makes
I
it really
think it's a
difficult.
challenge too when you're actually a presenter or a panelist, because it's a different experience at a festival for you as well. So you've got to be prepared and ready for your own panel and be at the right
Mm.
place at the right time and
Mhm.
possibly not thinking as much about what else is going on because you're presenting and focused on what you've got to deliver, which must be a bit disappointing at times not to be able to just sit back and enjoy a festival in the same way.
Yeah, it's very different when you're sort of under a little bit of pressure. I don't think it's a huge amount of pressure, but a little bit of pressure because, yeah, your brain's in gear because you know you have to talk about this topic and you want to do your best and you want to be familiar with the other author's work. I mean, I think that's really important. So, yeah, you can't sort of lounge about and drink coffee and listen in. You're sort of not on the job, but you're aware of, what's happening next. So,
Although you do get that intimacy of the green room and the drinks afterwards and things that other attendees wouldn't experience, which
yes, definitely.
is,
And looking forward to catching up with some mates. Yeah, just seeing what everybody's been doing this year because I'm sure people have news and there's new books and yeah, and that will be good.
and tonight there's an opening night celebration, which it's celebrating iconic Australian music. So
That's
there's
right.
going to be reimagined songs by Paul Kelly, Nick Cave, and then the spinning around the Kylie playlist, which is very
Yeah.
exciting. So that sounds like an awesome night. I'm a big Aussie music fan, so that's definitely my jam.
Yeah, no, I know they've worked really hard to pull it all together. And yeah, I hope the organizers will relax now and enjoy the weekend.
And have you got anything that you're working on at the moment, Catherine? Got any more
I have a
coming out?
new short story collection coming out next year, but that's already done. I mean, we're working on edits, and so that should come out at the end of next year. And yeah, there's always something cooking.
And is that your sole area that you work on, short stories, or are you looking at writing novels or anything else?
Yeah, I've finished a novel and I'm going to see, or go back and do some revisions and see how I go with that. They're completely different forms, so it is quite a leap, I think.
What's the experience been like? Has it felt like a different process?
Yes, yeah, it's more like turning up for the job,
Harder work
the
doing a
grind.
novel?
Yeah, I think, and certainly in my case, I know everybody has a different practice, but I really need to plan a lot more than a short story. I don't plan anything. I just fall into it.
Mm.
But a novel, I think you need to sort of map out. Well, I do. I definitely need to map out quite sort of clearly where I'm going, or I tend to go off on
Mm.
tangents because characters interest me and take me away. And so, yeah, I get away from plot. Plot's quite hard work.
And have you
Very different.
used any tools to plan when you were writing your novel, or did you just?
Piece of paper and a pen.
Yeah.
That's it.
I've got some little blue striped cards that I've got things planned out on, but it
Yeah.
hasn't made me write the book though, even though I've got the.
It's
So,
hard. It's hard because at the same time you have to keep your energy churning and your enthusiasm and your commitment to the project. And then it can be really discouraging looking at the great big picture. Yes. I mean, short story writing, not that it's easy to pull a short story off, but definitely if it's a failure, if it's a fail after 5,000 words, you've lost a week of your life, I think.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about 2 years work, 3 rewrites, and, that's hard, that can be quite depressing. So it all requires a lot of understanding why on earth you're doing it, I think.
Yes. And I think it is a question I ask myself nearly every week. Why am I doing this? Because I'm a writer, and the podcast takes up quite a bit of time.
I imagine.
And I'm very passionate about both my writing and my podcasting. And there are times when I just take a little minute and go, okay, what's the purpose? Am I achieving that purpose? Should I just stop? Would anyone notice?
Yeah, but those sorts of questions really bring you down as well. It's you've got to find the reason why, but in positive terms.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I actually enjoy the act of writing, and I enjoy playing with characters, and I enjoy, outcomes. I enjoy reading, I think, and reading is what really grounds us when we go. I think most of us have all grown up and been readers, passionate readers. I think all writers are. That's what really drives you. So I think when it all appears impossible or purposeless, and get back to reading, get back to remembering why on earth you love words, I think. So
I've started entering some competitions again recently and enjoying the process, although feeling crestfallen when I haven't long listed. But you can't long list every time. Like, you've got to be realistic and go, okay, it is. Sometimes it's a numbers game.
Really hard, and they're very, very subjective. And I've judged a lot of competitions, and there's no rhyme or reason. And so, yeah, I don't think you should be discouraged if you don't get anywhere in competitions. That's just the luck of the draw. I think just put it out there and submit, and don't think about it. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that you in writing, I mean, for me, because me too, I've had my great big depression moments as well. Let yourself get depressed and then get working on the next project.
Yeah, I think
that's it.
Starting something new is always when it's fresh and exciting and new, and also when you see the beautiful end product as well. That's amazing.
Yeah.
The first time I saw a piece of my own work in an anthology, it was like the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Sorry to my 2 children.
Kids are another thing. Kids are another thing.
Yeah, but seeing your work like typeset is a beautiful thing. And it's like, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I know I was meant to be a writer. Let's keep doing this. But
that's it.
What do you use to motivate yourself, Catherine?
I'm actually, after all these years, I still enjoy it so much. It's a bit silly saying I don't need motivation, but give me a week and I've got an idea. Just
Fantastic.
send me into my room and I'm off. And if I don't have an idea, I'll go for a hike. That's fine. I actually don't write unless I do have an idea, but they'll come if I go for a walk or do a great big drive somewhere. Yeah, I also, love seeing work when it comes out, when it's printed. It's really lovely when somebody does a really positive critique of your work or they come back and say, they've read it or they've given it to their book club and things like that. I mean, that really sort of spurs you on. But at the same time, it makes me a little bit scared because it makes me think, oh my God, what if I do run out of ideas? So there's always this balancing act of being psychologically,
I think though, if you're always consuming content, so if you're always reading, and reading new things, that your mind creates new things because you're feeding it.
Yeah,
so I often think I'm a bit of a true crime nut, and so watching true crime docos or listening to a podcast, and ideas will spring from stories I've heard that I would never have known about. Just living my daily life, I wouldn't have been exposed to some of those things. And the stories that I write aren't necessarily horror or murder or whatever, but I might just go, oh, that couple got married and they did this with their wedding cake they kept it in the freezer for a year and then ate it, and I'd never really heard of that before, but I'd seen it on a doco. So ideas come from everywhere, really. I think as long as you're living
That's
your
right.
life and traveling the world, you'll have ideas.
That's right. Yeah. Just always observe, I think, and keep reading and keeping a decent human being.
Are you based in Venice still?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you run retreats over there. Are they writing retreats?
Yeah. The retreats are in the country. I mean, in the big house where I brought up my kids. And they happen in the summertime, in like the Italian summer. And people come it's usually one person at a time, and they come with a project. And
Fun.
they usually come to work on, I don't know, story, editing, screenplay, or I get quite a few academics as well. So they usually have papers to work on. And basically they just work. And I take them around a little bit to Venice and I don't know, drinking ice cream, the Italian thing. But basically they come to work in a
Mhm.
peaceful environment and to enjoy the summer. And
So they don't necessarily mentor with you or anything like that. They
some,
just come to do their own work, or do they?
sometimes people do want mentoring as well. And I maybe edit their work, or we do a lot of people at the moment, there seem to be a lot of flash fiction writers. And I teach flash fiction. So I'll do prompts and sort of writing sessions with people if they want that as well. All sorts of different people come with completely different projects. It's actually really interesting for me too, because I really believe in cross fertilization of
Mm.
forms. And so you can be talking to a woman who's an academic and writing about some sort of extreme area that you've never thought about in your life. And it's just wonderful to experience another facet of writing or somebody else's passion for their interest. And yeah, more ideas. And people come from different places. So that's always enriching, I think.
And how do you promote or source your guests?
I actually don't. I don't do any promotion because I I actually don't want too many guests because then it becomes overwhelming,
Yeah.
really. It's a house, it's not a hotel. It's actually an old farmhouse. And so I have a website, my work website, and I just have included a couple of pages about the writing retreat. So people usually find me when they Google writing retreat in Italy, somehow it comes up. But do not ask me about algorithms or anything like that because I'm clueless. I
It's
did
a
the website
mystery to
myself.
everyone.
Well, I don't know. But anyway, that's how, or people tell other people, it
Mm.
all sort of works in a, yeah, low key way. Nothing, it's not really touristy or anything like that. It's actually because I know how hard it is to get a mental space to work and a
Mm.
physical space to work. I know what it's like when you have to cook for kids every day or you have to drive them here, drive them there, go to work. I mean, I know how hard it is just to have time. I mean, to have a block
Mm.
of time where you can finish something and be totally immersed and talk about writing or, all of the hurdles that we sort of come up against when we're trying to finish something.
Also, kind of sound like you're living the dream, Catherine.
Oh, people say
Living
that,
in
but believe me,
Italy,
no,
beautiful visitors.
it's, on the one hand, yes, but on the other hand, Italy, it's the same as anywhere. I'm going home now and it'll be freezing and it will be lighting the fire every day and, huge heating bill, freezing house. And then there's winter at the other end of summer. So
It'll be a shock leaving Perth to head back to the winter.
I'm actually going to another festival in India on the way home. So I'm doing a bit of heat and then, yeah, back to the cold.
And how does it feel being back in Australia for a little while?
I did the Indian Pacific with my mom.
Mm.
And from Sydney to Perth because that was her dream. So
Oh,
I've had
lovely.
a very pampered time on the train and it was wonderful. It was just really wonderful. I haven't really traveled a lot in Australia because I left when I was 21 and then, life, kids, everything. So I haven't really come back to live in Australia. So traveling around it's great. It's amazing. But otherwise, when I'm in Sydney, I always, see my people and work things and family and all that. That's always lovely. One of my kids is based in Sydney, so it's lovely to go back to Sydney.
Sounds lovely. Well, thank you so much for sharing about your work and about the panels that you'll be on for the Australian Short Story Festival. I hope that your panels are packed out tomorrow and Sunday.
That'll be fun.
And I've enjoyed learning more about your work as well. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Ky. And I hope you're feeling better. And thanks so much for having me.
Totally Lit is an independent podcast. You can help support us to continue to chat with wonderful Australian creatives by leaving a review on iTunes or sharing our socials with your friends. You can also make a contribution at www.buymeacoffee.com/Totally Lit. This will also help with equipment and podcasting platform fees. I love to interact with our listeners, so feel free to say hello either by email or social media at totallylitpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn and Twitter, and now Blue Sky. I've also created a group on Facebook called the Totally Lit Writing Community. It's a space to continue the conversation and share your writing successes, events, launches and latest projects. Jump into the group and say hello. Thank you for listening to Totally Lit, and don't forget to go out into the world to read, write, create, ignite.